Hey y'all, welcome back to Exile Wargaming, where today, and as always, we're going to be talking about Harlequins in a Warhammer 40k battle report against the Astra Militarum in the Combined Arms Detachment. Now, the list we're bringing today should look a bit familiar. It's something we've been trying over the past couple weeks. I have yet to go first with a list like this, whose sole purpose is to move, block, or jail our opponent into their deployment zone or their side of the board and run away with the score lead early on in the game. We are not trying to table our opponent or overwhelm them with damage, just an abundance of mobility, activations, and OC to play the game rather than our opponents. So we have 3 Troop Masters, one with Chegarak's Coil, a Shadow Seer with the Mistweave Cloak, a Death Jester with Murder's Jest, and the Solitaire to round out our character spot. We have an 11-man unit of troops that we can attach either the Shadow Seer or the Troop Master with Coil into, 5 units of 5 troops, and 4 Star Weavers to cart them around in. A lot of times with this list, we may want to put one of our bare bones units of troops into strategic reserve or attach one of these units to the Shadow Seer with the Mistweave, which means we don't need a million Star Weavers. We have 2 units of 2 Sky Weavers with Zephyr and Glaives, 3 units of 5 Rangers to infiltrate the midboard, get that move block started early, and then 2 units of 3 Shroud Runners to round it out. We're coming in at 19 total units at 2,000 points on the nose. Now our opponent is bringing the Astra Militarum and the Combined Arms Detachment. They have a Cadian Castellan attached to a Cadian Command Squad inside of a big brick of 20 Cadian Shock Troops. So this portion of their list is kind of wild. I think they can sticky objectives. They get a ton of lethal hits and OC on the board. They can increase their movement and a whole bunch of other shenanigans through orders. I do not want to pretend that I understand much about Imperial Guard, but we're going to try our best to make it through this game. He's bringing 2 Rogel Dorn tank commanders, one with Grand Strategist. I think it can give out extra orders, however that works. 2 Leman Russ battle tanks, 10 Catachan jungle fighters, 3 units of 10 Kazarkin, 2 units of 5 Krieg combat engineers. Those guys are kind of wild for 60 points. Acadian mortar squad, and 2 Torox and a Chimera. They're coming in at 15 total units at 2,000 points on the nose. We're going to be playing Mission O, which is Terraform, Crucible of Battle style deployment on GW Terrain Layout 8. Now, getting into deployment, our opponent selects first, but they don't have any infiltrating units, so that's perfectly fine for us. What we're going to see over here is sort of a parking lot. We kind of get bailed out in this game just through terrain and the layout itself. We want to be engaging our opponent up close. So hopefully this gives us a little bit of an advantage. Any game that I've ever played against Imperial Guard has been almost a nightmare when it comes down to just the volume of activations they have. So hopefully we can enact a good bit of move blocks. So our opponent kind of has this parking lot back here. He has a unit of 20 Cadian shock troops with the command squad and a Castellan. I think he gets fallback and shoot from this unit as well on their home field objective. A Leman Russ down here, a unit of 10 Catachan jungle fighters that can scout in the early turn, maybe go grab or score some objectives in the middle over here. A Chimera with 2 units of Krieg combat engineers, and then a mortar squad right back here, just kind of screening out this section of the board, or maybe it'll move on to this after the Cadians sticky it and they want to move up towards the midboard. He has 2 Rogel Dorn tank commanders back here, a Torox with Kazarkin, another Leman Russ battle tank up here, and another Torox with Kazarkin as well. He has elected to put 10 Kazarkin, 1 unit into strategic reserves beyond this. Now, what we did on our side of the board is we don't want to expose much of anything. Our opponent does have to move around all of its vehicles, and there's a lot of terrain they have to work through on the first turn. So I don't see any major point in, throwing away a unit of Rangers up front here, if they have the ability to move out 7 and advance afterwards. So we may be able to kind of sneak a turn away with them not being exposed, kind of steal an activation if we have to go second. So we have our Rangers up here just ready to kind of push and block this section of the board, as well as a unit of Shroud Runners that can also do the same. Down low, we have another unit of Rangers down here, and the Shadow Seer brick as well, and the Solitaire right here in the middle to kind of just push wherever he may need to go in the early turns of the game. Down here as well, we have a Star Weaver with a unit of bare bones troops, I believe. And then we have 3 units of troops with Troop Masters in these Star Weavers up here. One of these Troop Master units, I believe it may be this one, has Chegarak's Coil. And then the Death Jester is sitting up here. Again, if he needs to get towards this midfield objective, we get something like Area Denial early on. We want to do that. Or just plop him on there, move block our opponent, and score an easy 4 points in primary the following turn. Everything else is pretty much just staged to kind of follow up on an objective at any point in time. I really like the Shadow Seer brick down here, especially in the early turns, because even if our opponent does get to go first and they want to draw lines of sight down here, they can't because we have that 18-inch lone op. So hopefully this keeps us. We have a unit of Shroud Runners right here. This is just the easiest angle they can get to try to block this section of the board. If we get a good advance and we use, the extra 2 inches of movement plus the 9-inch scout, we can get them all the way up towards this section of the board early on. Now we win the turn 1 dice roll and get to go first. This is my first match with this list where we had the opportunity to just jail our opponent right off the rip. Now, unfortunately for us, is our opponent has a ridiculous volume of solid Overwatch targets, so we are going to lose this unit of Rangers. We drew Extend Battle Lines and Tempting Target for turn 1. Our opponent did select I believe this as the tempting target. So we're going to move up into this section of the board. If he would have selected the middle, we would have most likely just thrown the Death Jester up here and hoped for the best. But we are going to push up this unit of Rangers. It's going to get overwatched by the Rogel Dorn and get completely wiped. Then we kind of have to make a choice from here, and we're going to push up our unit of Shroud Runners to touch this point, make sure we get Tempting Target and extend battle lines, and we're going to move block this whole section of the board over here. So the Khazarkin aren't really going to be able to get out and do much unless they want to run across this side of the board, which then exposes them to everything we have over here up on this angle. And these guys really don't want to be sitting in this terrain, I'm hoping, at this point. So we'll see what happens. But the Shroud Runners are going to move up. They put some shots into the Chimera and the Catachans. And we are able to bring down, I believe, all of the Catachans. We shift up everything over here. We get right in range of this Chimera after it's scouted with a Star Weaver, a unit of Sky Weavers, and the Death Jester. We were just in range. And we are able to bring it down. Unfortunately, he does not lose any of these combat engineers that get out, but we are able to get rid of that resource early on. Everything down here just kind of stages up for the following turn. Our opponent's not going to get any good angles down here, so we're going to move our Shroud Runners. We are going to terraform with a Solitaire. We move our unit of Rangers up against this wall over here, and then we have the Shadow Seer brick in this kind of 1-inching the wall as well. So if our opponent does get close, they cannot charge. We can threaten Bloody Dance and just start steamrolling later on. So we really have this section of the board kind of on lockdown. Everyone else is just going to stage for the following turn. We end up scoring 4 points on Extend Battle Lines, 5 points on Tempting Target, and we are set up pretty well off to jail our opponent the following turn after. So at the end of our turn, this is kind of what it looks like. Everything cleared out over here, and we did end up disembarking our unit of troops from this Star Weaver just so our opponent couldn't push and have a pocket for those Khazarkin to just lay waste to everything over here. Now, in our opponent's turn one, they draw assassination and recover assets, and I really start to see the error of my ways. A couple of my angles were a little bit too tight, and I definitely underestimated the capabilities of those Krieg combat engineers. So, our opponent is going to shift up this Torox, but after it let out a unit of Khazarkin behind this wall over here, just kind of looking to trade on this objective, give us nothing for free. So the Rogaldorn tank commander and this Leman Russ are able to bring down all of these Shroud Runners. This Rogaldorn is going to move up over here, put some shots into, I believe it was our Skyweavers. Now, fortunately for us, they did make it through, but the Krieg combat engineers get that free grenade. They're able to finish this unit as well as the Death Jester. We had to reactive move our unit of troops back into this Star Weaver over here, and fortunately, I think this Rogaldorn may have split fire into this, and we made a couple saves, so we were able to walk away with this. Unfortunately for us, the combat engineers are able to finish this off and bring down the Death Jester as well, so we're going to have to resurrect him. And then there was this real cheeky angle that I just did not see from this Leman Russ that was able to bring down our Star Weaver up top over here. So we lost the Death Jester, unit of Skyweavers, and a Star Weaver, and I didn't really expect much of it, on top of losing the Shroud Runners as well. We've lost a good bit on our opponent's first turn of shooting, resources that we 100% need to make it through the course of this game. Our opponent is going to score 8 points in secondary, moving it on to us. Now, in our turn two, we score 9 points in primary and draw secure no man's land as well as cleanse. We are going to ditch cleanse because we want as many command points as possible. I feel like grenades and the reactive move, and especially the resurrect stratagem, are going to be one of the difference makers in the game, especially if our opponent can just wipe out any of our units by looking at them. Having a number of extra activations goes a long way, and something like a troop master still being alive could wipe out a substantial number of Khazarkin. Let's say we throw a grenade, we shoot a fusion pistol, we charge off an objective just by himself. So we want to keep as many CP as possible. We did play a couple games with the no Overwatch stratagem, and it ended up working out really well in our favor. We pushed up this unit of Rangers and asked our opponent if he wanted to Overwatch, and he did not. So then we ended up using the no Overwatch stratagem over here on this unit. So we were able to kind of run free on this section of the board. So just kind of a folly on our opponent's part, not knowing, I guess, what he could do or what he shouldn't do at this point in time. So we're doing well there. But this unit's going to push up with the no Overwatch, get in line to charge these Khazarkin. We do get a very fortunate roll between, we got a big hit on a fusion pistol and the Star Weaver, and we are able to bring down this Torox, which was pretty nice. Our opponent dropped a few of our Rangers off our home field objective last turn, and I think we only had 2 remaining. So we're going to push our Death Jester back to make sure that we continually score this over the course of the game. And then these Skyweavers are really just holding out, waiting for a good target to get into. There's zero reason to move them at this point in the game. Our unit of troops that got out from our Star Weaver that blew up last turn is going to push up towards this mid board, and we are going to be able to bring down the combat engineers in shooting, as well as the Shroud Runners that put some shots down here as well. Our Star Weaver is going to just move up in case we have to move back a specific unit. So we can get some extra range, and our other troops are just lined out here, still within 6 inches, just kind of screening this section of the board off of our opponent. Otherwise, the Shadow Seer, Brick, and the Solitaire are just going to keep doing actions over here and holding this section down. In the charge phase, we end up moving our Troop Master with Shagarax Coil into these combat engineers behind this rune, as well as Tank Shock with the Star Weaver. And what this is going to let us do is eliminate all of these. We get to do Shagarax Coil first, see what we kill, and then try to Tank Shock in the end. So hopefully we could just consolidate into this Rogel Dorn and stop him in his tracks. And we make the charge on the back end into the Kazarkin as well. There are a couple guys wrapped around this side of the rune. If we do get to wipe them, we'll then move in and block this Leman Russ as well. So at the end of it all, we end up locking up this Rogel Dorn, and we are able to bring down quite a few wounds. I believe we brought down 8 or 9 wounds from this Rogel Dorn, which was really killer for us. And then we're going to move into this Leman Russ, who's going to get to fight back. Unfortunately, nothing happens for him as far as our Harlequin troops are concerned. In our opponent's turn 2, they end up shifting this Torox with Kazarkin all the way up towards this objective, and the Kazarkin are going to get out. Our opponent then moves out the Rogel Dorn tank commander, falls back from our unit of Harlequin troops. After moving out this unit over here, and we're going to reactive move back into the Star Weaver. Our opponent falls back with this Leman Russ battle tank, and we use opportunity seized to get behind this wall, so just kind of negating any extra firepower. Our opponent's able to bring down all of our Harlequin troop and our Troop Master with the Rogel Dorn very easily, and we end up having to resurrect the Troop Master himself. Now, our opponent did draw Storm Hostile objective and no prisoners. Now, they're not going to get Storm Hostile because we didn't have anything in range of them to get to an objective that we were on, but they are going to kill a good bit of our units. They wiped out all of the Rangers down here in shooting after we reactive moved our troop. I believe this Leman Russ is able to bring down the Star Weaver, and then the Kazarkin lay waste to the inhabitants inside. So what we did at the end of the movement phase, though, is get our Harlequin troop that was in reserves up here with a rapid ingress, and hopefully they're going to be able to deal with these Kazarkin after. But we did lose at least 3 units. We have our Troop Master remaining up here, and everything else is just kind of holding steady. We were able to hand him a 4 points in primary, so maybe we could start running away with this game, at least on the scoreboard. Now in our turn 3, we score another 9 points in primary and draw behind enemy lines in Display of Might. This is a pretty opportune set of secondaries for us, at least in this point of the game. We are bleeding resources every single turn, so thankfully we got Display of Might now. We're going to push up our Harlequin troop that rapid ingressed last turn up to this wall so we can charge the Kazarkin without worrying about getting overwatched. We're going to move our Troop Master up over here, just kind of staying out of line or angle. I think we end up pushing him back just a hair, so he cannot get overwatched by this Rogel Dorn as well. And then we're going to use our no overwatch battle focus token on this unit of Shroud Runners to keep blocking this section of the board. All we are trying to do is keep our opponent from scoring. Something we may or should have done last turn is move the Death Jester up. We would have got ourselves an extra 4 points if we would have just parked him on the midfield objective. But we're going to do that this turn instead and shift our Skyweavers back to this objective. Everything else is going to start moving out and back over here to screen out this section of the board from a bunch of Kazarkin coming in. Our opponent on the previous turn did utilize the stratagem to pick up or put another unit in reserves from the Kazarkin that died. I think it's reinforcements at that point. So our opponent has 2 units of Kazarkin in strategic reserve. But up to this point, we are just going to continually cage our opponent wherever we can and just hope that they can't score. This Troop Master comes out. It is able to put a good bit of wounds on this Torox, and we're going to move to the fight phase. In the charge phase, we are able to bring down all of these Kazarkin, but unfortunately, we did need the Troop Master to fight in as well, so he is just tying up the Torox at this point in time. I was hoping that we can wipe the whole squad with this unit and then let the Troop Master fight the Torox for the remainder, but having a bunch of Kazarkin sitting around, I just didn't see it as a really great opportunity for us. In our opponent's turn 3, they score 4 points again in primary and then draw Establish Locus and Secure No Man's Land. He pitches Establish Locus and gets Engage on all fronts instead. What we ended up doing here is, as the Torox fell back from our Harlequin troops and our Troop Master, we used Opportunity Seized. We lost a few of them last turn at the end of combat. To get them behind this wall over here again and just have a resource to help screen the board or just complete actions. 4OC is 4OC. But he falls back with the Torox, moves up everything else. This parking lot is really helping us at this point. He is able to bring down our unit Troop Master up here, and then I think the one unit of Kazarkin came out behind this section of the wall over here. Another unit of Kazarkin was brought down over here. The unit of mortars is going to move on to the home field objective, and then he's going to push forward, I think, with move, move, move. I think he gets an extra 2 or 3 inches of movement on this big Cadian command squad brick, and they're going to be able to bring down this unit of Shroud Runners as well. The Rogel Dorn that was over here is going to move up towards this section of the board. He is very easily going to be able to bring down this Death Jester in the center, and we already resurrected him, so this is gone. He has cleared almost all of our screens on this section of the board. Hopefully we have a big enough point lead to come back, but we are running really, really shy on resources. Now, in the charge phase, our opponent uses Tank Shock to get this Leman Russ into our couple Harlequin troops. Over here, this Troop Master is gone. He's going to be holding this objective with the Torox, and everything else just kind of stays put. Moving into our turn 4, we score another 9 points in primary, and we draw Storm Hostile Objective and Area Denial. So this made it really, really easy for us. We had our unit of Harlequin troops that was in a Star Weaver back here that got back inside of the boat, and then they're going to jump out and try and get into range and combat with this Rogel Dorn. We are able to put some firepower into this Rogel Dorn earlier on in the match. We did some wounds with another unit of Harlequin troops. So I think it was down to just 8 wounds remaining after our shooting phase. I think we threw a grenade here as well. Everything else is just going to hold back and try to be OC to contest whatever our opponent needs to do. We have yet to use our Solitaire, and we have 2 units of Harlequin troops over here. One is a Shadow Seer brick, and the other is just a bare bones unit. So we do have 3 units on this section of the board, a Star Weaver. We have some Sky Weavers left. We're just going to try to take this mid section. If we can get Area Denial and Storm Hostile Objective off of this, that is such a slam dunk for us. And in the charge phase, we are able to make it happen. The Troop Master gets, I think, 4 or maybe 6 wounds through on the Rogel Dorn, and we roll pretty nice with those extra 5 attacks apiece with some devastating wounds. I don't believe there was a save that needed to be made. I think we made it through with all devastating wounds, which was very, very fortunate for us. We are going to score our max secondary on this turn. Now, in our opponent's turn 4, they score 9 points in primary and draw Behind Enemy Lines and Display of Might. He's going to get rid of Behind Enemy Lines and then draws Tempting Target. So we're going to choose this bottom objective over here as our tempting target. We still have access to our reactive move and everything else. I do not believe he can take this from us, so we're in really good shape there. At the end of the last fight phase, we killed the Rogel Dorn, and then we moved in and consolidated into this Leman Russ battle tank. It's going to end up falling back and pushing towards our home field objective. This Rogel Dorn is going to move forward and lay waste to all of our Harlequin troops right here, as well as the Kazarkin that were back here are going to move up towards this objective as well with the Torox. And I think the Torox is how they end up getting their terraform up here. This big Cadian command squad brick is going to move towards the center objective, and then these Kazarkin are going to push forward as well and really just try to give us too many options at this point in the game. But we didn't give them many targets to shoot at this point. All we really had going on was our unit of troops in the middle, and our opponent is just daring us to come out at this point. And fortunately for us, Bloody Dance is one of our stratagems, and while we rarely get to use it, when you see it sometimes, it can be a little bit game-changing. So we Bloody Dance with the Shadow Seer unit just to get some extra mobility and kind of skew our no Overwatch tokens, and we have to use them next turn. But we're able to bring down this Leman Russ to just 4 wounds remaining in the fight phase. Now in our turn 5, we score another 9 points in primary and then draw Sabotage and Call the Horde. Now this is, I think, a kind of a maybe a misplay on our part. If I knew that we were going to have to go towards this unit, I probably would have got rid of Sabotage and then kept Call the Horde and Assassination and just went all in on this big brick here. But because we got rid of Sabotage, we're not going to be able to score nearly as many points in secondary at this point in time. So hopefully we can make it happen though. We use our fallback shoot and charge strat with this big solitaire brick. We're able to bring down the Leman Russ battle tank down here. This unit of Skyweavers is going to push out. Our Starweaver is going to move towards our home field objective, and we're just going to look to block this Leman Russ. We are able to bring down a few wounds off of it as well, and we're just going to have to charge in the final turn of the game and hope our opponent doesn't have enough movement to get onto our home field objective. We do put a bunch of shots into this unit here with our Shadow Seer brick. We use no Overwatch. And then we do get melta-bombed by this unit of Kazarkin, and they're able to bring down quite a few of one of our bare bones units of troops. I think we only walk out with a couple of these guys, and then the Solitaire is going to blitz towards this objective. If we can take our opponent's home field objective, this is huge for us. But we're going to see how far we can go with these Kazarkin right here. The Overwatch and that Melta-Bomb really kind of skewed the numbers, so we may just have to go in on the Kazarkin afterwards. Now, we were able to bring down 5 or 6 of the Cadian shock troops in our opponent's turn, and then we're going to charge everything with that Shadow Seer brick into this unit as well. It is like 60-something attacks. I believe right around maybe 55, 60 attacks coming into this unit, and we are able to wipe the command squad. Unfortunately, we don't get the Cadian Castellan, so he's going to kind of tie us up on this section of the board, but we are going to get Assassination, as that command squad does count as a character. So we're going to walk out of this turn with 5 points, and unfortunately, we were not able to sabotage anything as we started that action down here, and we're going to see why in just a moment. Unfortunately for us, the Shadow Seer was not able to, or the troop was not able to bring down all of the Kazarkin over here, so we weren't able to kind of springboard with the Solitaire onto this objective and contest it from our opponent afterwards. So this kind of stunk just a little bit over here, but we're going to see where it takes us in the final turn. Now, in our opponent's turn 5, they have an opportunity to steal the game. They draw Bring It Down and Cleanse, get rid of Cleanse, and draw Sabotage. So this Rogel Dorn is going to push up over here. It very easily brings down our Starweaver, so we're going to lose our 3 points that we would have got on Sabotage. These Kazarkin are going to push out over here, and with the Rogel Dorn, bring down all of our Shadow Seer brick. There's nothing we can do about it at this point. And then this Leman Russ is able to bring down one of our Skyweavers. Down here, the Solitaire would eventually be able to bring down these Kazarkin troops, but there's nothing we can do in the shooting phase. So he is going to score max in primary for this turn. So at the end of our opponent's turn, they're going to score 4 points here, 4 points here, 4 here and get the terraform action off as well for 13 points in primary, plus another 7 points in secondaries. We have nothing left but a Starweaver, a Skyweaver, and the Solitaire left on the board. But at the end of it all, we sneak away with a victory, 81-70. And all I can say is, wow. This was an incredibly difficult matchup. It was my first game going first with this list, and thank God we did. The move blocks worked great those first couple turns of the game, but I really feel like we kind of got bailed out by the terrain. Terrain layout 8, I think, heavily favors a lot of the melee armies. It was nice having a unit in reserves for once, something to combat that unit of Kazarkin at the top of the board. I think on our turn 3 was really cool. I normally don't use exit the stage much. Every once in a while it seems to make sense, but just based on what our opponent had, we were kind of forced to put that bare bones unit in strategic reserves. I don't want to lose something to the mortar team early on in the game, and I knew he was going to be going for our home field objective, so I'm glad that that panned out for us. Flitting Shadows and that no Overwatch was crucial. Without it, I think we lose this game 10 out of 10 times, every single time, just based on our units' compositions and what we're capable of doing as far as damage. We really do need to just be able to get ourselves in a position and move block our opponents. We never had a hope of tabling our opponent or removing the majority of their tanks or vehicles at any point in this game. While our units feel great into their infantry, it takes a little bit of positioning, and I think it might be a little bit tougher on some other maps. Not being able to put no Overwatch on everything means we can only use a couple units each turn. So while the lone ops felt great against indirect fire, they let us, terraform. I think the Solitaire terraformed for 4 points over the course of the game. The Death Jester made sure that, we were able to score our home field objective for a couple turns. They really didn't have a ton of play because as soon as they walk out, they're going to get overwatched. So just by nature of this game, it made it really difficult for us to do anything that we really wanted to. The guard just have too many units, and everything wipes out whatever it is they look at, whether it's on their turn or in Overwatch. Even the smaller troops like Catachans or the Krieg combat engineers or the Kazarkin with grenades and flamers and mortal wound bombs just cripple our troops. That combat engineer squad kind of almost put me on tilt right off the bat in the early stages of the game. So there's a lot of different units, and they can reinforce one of their units. So while they may only have 15 or 16 total units on the board, one of them is a giant brick, a bunch are real heavy tanks, and then they can pick up another unit as well and just kind of play this cat and mouse game over the course of the game. It just seemed like between both of our armies, there were a number of things that would have swung this game in a ton of different directions. I think at any point in time, our opponent could have just ran away with the victory. There's just too many decisions with a ton of room for error on both sides. Whether it's involving our reactive moves or our extra movement tokens, or who's getting no Overwatch and our opponent and all of their orders and then reserves and everything else that comes with it. It just seemed like there is so much room for error. And I think if you had someone who was truly experienced and had hundreds of games with guard, it would be a ridiculous uphill battle for us. So overall, I felt like this was a lucky win decided by just a couple of moments throughout the course of the game. As you can see over on the scoreboard, we scored 36 points in primary and 35 in our secondaries. And our opponent, while we jailed them into their side of the board for the majority of the game, they still were able to score 30 points in primary by just tabling us at the end, and then 30 points in secondaries. At any point, if something changed, they drew a different secondary, this could have been entirely different. Our turn 4, where we drew Storm Hostile Objective and Area Denial, was everything. Being able to bring down the Rogel Dorn with just, a couple wounds remaining, that could have swung if we didn't roll. I think we only needed to roll average, but if we rolled below average, that would have cost us. And then getting Assassination on that big brick was the key. If we don't get those in this turn, we walk away the loser by 5 points if nothing else changes. So this was tough. It was fun. At the end of the game, it was fun. In the early portions of the game, it felt real kind of stressful. I would be happy if I never played this matchup again. If I did play it in a tournament, however, this is the same strategy I would utilize and just kind of hope for the best. I think that's all we could do. If we get turn 1 or turn 2, just based on, our opponent's kind of parking lot situation, I think we were okay either way. I think we were in better shape if we had turn 2. If we got to go second, we may have been able to secure a victory a little bit earlier on, just based on our Shadow Seer brick. But oh my gosh, this felt lucky. But I hope you enjoyed. This game was so much closer than I ever imagined, a little bit more stressful than I ever imagined. I'm stressed out just reviewing it. But please like, share, subscribe, join the Discord. Any little bit of help means more than you can possibly imagine. But thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next video.